I hope I'm live. So if I'm live, then please, if you can give me a quick thumbs up, then it would be really great. Perfect. Perfect. Okay. Yeah, that means I'm audible. Okay. Okay, people. Since I'm live, so let me quickly. So currently we are 71 watching. So let's wait for another 1-2 minutes so that more people can join in. Till then, what I can do is I can share my screen and we can define the agenda that we have for the uh, today's meeting over here. Okay, sure. So let me quickly share my screen so that we can uh, have this meeting today and we can basically discuss what all things come in interview prep, what all things are asked in interview, engineering interviews or software development interviews, and how exactly should we prepare. One thing that you can do is you can quickly pour in whatever questions that you have in the chat. So I would be taking your questions. I would just request you to put in everything that you have, all the doubts that you have. I'll request you to put in the chat section, right? So that is one thing that I want you to do. Okay. Yeah. One other thing that we'll do today is we will have an interactive session. So I'll request you to come to this session and I'll share the link with you. So let's come to this session afterwards. Before coming to this session, what I would suggest you is let's decide the agenda, right? So, and one other thing that I would all request you is to try to put every doubt that you have, all the queries that you have, try to put it in the chat section so that I can answer it. Okay. Just to answer your question, Atisha, it would be no certificate, right? I hope I've answered that. Okay. How to make solid projects for fan companies. Another question is I'm in final year and I have to prepare. I've applied for TCS, NQT. How should I prepare for it? Okay. Pretty good. So let me start the agenda. So first what I'll do is I'll define what all things are covered in the engineering interview, right? So let me write it. So there are two types of interviews that we have. One is the system oriented interview, another is a coding oriented interview. So over here I'm focusing on the coding oriented, or let's suppose you may say that I'm tackling over here specifically those interviews which are for the software development roles. So I'll talk about what all things we have in the interviews. We have 4 rounds. So what is the first round? What's the second round? What's the third round? And so on and so forth. Then we'll specifically talk about each round. And I'll go into depth in one round specifically. And we'll talk about that. Other than that, what we will do is we will have this webinar activity based, right? So I'll basically we'll do something. We'll solve some questions together. So the major agenda, the major focus of this interview would be how to tackle and how to solve data structures and algorithms, problems related to data structures and algorithms in an interview setting. How exactly should you communicate? How should you tackle the problem and how should you solve that problem? So this is something that basically we want to talk about. And I'll share a link with you. I'll share a test link with you, and basically we'll together solve that test. So we will have 3 questions, and we'll solve those 3 questions together. So after this whole webinar, we have an event after this as well. So I hope you know about this. So there is an event on 17th based on this webinar over here. So after this today's webinar, we have this interview crack event. So whatever interview tips that we would be learning today, we would have an event on the basis of it. We would have questions which will basically we discuss today. We will have questions based on that. We will have twisted and tweaked versions of the questions that we will discuss today. So So let's start with the webinar then. Let me quickly see and let me quickly see how all questions we have. So we have one question from Madhav. Madhav is spamming and basically he's okay. Don't spam. I would read your questions. Don't worry about those things. Okay. Okay, perfect. Okay. So generally the questions that I can see over here is I am in fourth year, I'm in third year, I'm in second year. How should I prepare? That's one question that I can see. Okay. Okay. Apart from that, the other question that we have is would Flutter be useful for the placements or not? I'm currently in third year. I'll talk about that as well. Madhav, don't worry. I've read your question. I'll answer that. Uh, okay, Revant is asking about specifically about a particular type of contest, TCS NQT. Okay, so let's start with the webinar. One thing that I have kept a note in my mind is that I have to talk about how should a second year go about preparing for the interviews, how should a third year go about preparing for the interviews, and how should basically a fourth year person should basically go about preparing for the interviews. So we'll talk about these things as well. So first, let's talk about what an interview actually comprises of. So this is not a standard thing. This is something that is widely followed, right? So round one is generally the filtering off round, where you would have MCQs generally. So you could have MCQs, MCQ questions related to code outputs of C++, Java, or even Python as well. So you could have small snippets of code of Java and C++, and they can ask you to find outputs, or they can ask you to find errors in them. So that's one type of MCQs that we get. The second type of MCQs are related to operating system, or there would be related to core subjects. There could be mostly they are related to operating system and database management systems. These are the two subjects which we closely deal with. The concepts of these are basically most tested. If you're specifically talking about a company which specifically deals in network, so let's suppose if I'm going for an interview of Cisco, or if I'm going for an interview of, you can say Ericent, or something which is into computer networking, then you can have computer network MCQs also, right? So the round one, I would name it the filtering round, where they want to see the people who have a bare minimum aptitude. They have a bare minimum knowledge. Then round two is the round where they give you a coding round. They'll give you coding problems based on data structures and algorithms. And then they would want you to solve those questions. And the people who are going to solve or they're going to cover the minimum requirement that company has, they would keep a benchmark for a fit student. So whoever clears that benchmark, they would go to the next round. This is the round which I would generally call it would be a face-to-face round. So it would be a face-to-face interview round. You would be asked, this would be a technical round. You would be asked questions based on your resume, whatever projects that you have mentioned on your resume, and all those concepts which are revolving around all those concepts that are revolving around the projects that you have made. So everything around your projects. So I would call this the projects round. And then comes the managerial round, or the HR round, or you can say the round where your behavioral questions are tested. So I can say that these first three rounds test your aptitude, and the last round will test your attitude, whether you are a team player or not, whether you would be team fit or not. It's very important to have a team player. Most of the companies rely heavily on the round four, because it's important for a person to have humility. He should be a humble person, because if it's not humble, he would not able to take knowledge from others. So it's very important to be a team player. So round four generally tests your attitude. It's nothing that you can basically you cannot prepare for it, but there is something which we can basically see around it also. some general etiquettes that we can learn about, some general professional things that we can follow, that we can imbibe. So these are the 4 rounds that we have. Now, first round is something that is clearly based on your knowledge, and that is not something that's purely theoretical. That's something that is based on pure facts. It's not something that I can share any tips or tricks on it. So that is completely theoretical, knowledge based, and it's completely fact based. So that's something that you have to work upon whenever you're going through your current college subjects. So I would request you to go through these things properly. If you're learning operating systems, learn it properly. I would recommend at least read one book, at least read Gelvin. Similarly, for database management system for DBMS, read Navate. Similarly, if you're doing your Java and C++, make sure that you are doing it properly. If you are preparing them properly as a subject, as your core subjects in your during your curriculum in your Bachelor of Technology, during your degree course, you won't face any problems while going through this first round. This is the general idea that I'm talking about. It is not something that is absolutely followed. It's a general trend that I'm talking about. Most of the time, the first round is around these things only. Second round is around DS and Algo only, and then the third round is around face to face. We'll talk about DS and Algo in much more detail. We'll go into depth of this this thing. Then coming to the round 3 directly, I'm skipping this part because I'll talk about this part much in detail. So coming to the third round, which is face-to-face round, over here, we would be mostly talking about your projects. Over here, the interview is driven by your resume. If you have ML projects, they'll talk about ML. They'll talk about concepts around that. If you have developed websites, if you have done web development, they'll talk about that. And if you have made projects around data structures and algorithms, you have worked more on data structures, you have gone into depth of data structures, you have worked a lot on competitive programming. So they'll talk about that. Over here, things are driven by you. So round 3 is something that is driven by you. Then the fourth thing that we have over here is the behavior round. So these 2 things are very subjective. So for these 2 things, we have elaborate sessions that had been already been taken. So what I'll do is there is a session which was taken earlier, and that is very elaborate, which talks about resume projects, how to add projects in resume, how to get the ideas. Each question is answered in detail. So what I'll do is I'll put those questions. I'll put that webinar link in the comment after this webinar. I'll put that link. Apart from that, this attitude part as well, the behavioral interview also. So there has been 2 sessions, one regarding this behavioral interview and one regarding the resume building. So I'll share the links to that as well. And once you go through them, you will have an elaborate idea. All your queries regarding whether Flutter should be used or whether what should be used, whether React would give me the right amount of opportunities that I need, is ML the best choice? Whatever questions that you have regarding projects, you would basically, your questions would be resolved at that point when you'll go through that session. And similarly for the round 4 also, that session is more elaborate and discusses things in detail. So I would like to borrow that expertise from them, and I'll share that thing with you. Before going any ahead, what I would like to do is I would like to go through your comments. Any doubts that you have so far? These are the 4 rounds that we generally go through, right? So I can see more questions. I can see Karthik asking that he's weak in data structures and algorithms, and how exactly he should solve them, how exactly he should go about this round. To answer the question by Grish, user with the username Grish, how should we make solid projects that would be seen by FANG companies? I would ideally say that what you should do is you should go through the webinar that I'll share with you later on, and you will have all your answers, queries answered over there. Okay. Then, okay. So I have some more queries, but before going into that, what I want to discuss is I want to discuss an ideal way of using your 4 years. Then I'll talk about if you're in second year, then what you should do. If you're in third year, then what you should do. And if you have been in fourth year, then what exactly you should do. Right? Okay. Okay, I'll take your question, Aditi, but let me first talk about the ideal path. So the first thing that you should do is, if you are in first year, you have just started, the first thing that you should do is you should do data structures and algorithms. You can do data structures and algorithms in any language that you want. Either it would be Java or C++, or you can go for Python as well. Similarly, you can take other languages as well. So there is no foundation on the language that you can use. There is a reason why I'm telling you to start with data structures and algorithms, right? So why I'm telling you about data structures and algorithms is, for example, let's suppose I want to learn coding. I want to become a very great software developer. For that, I have to learn coding. I have to learn a language. Then I have to make sure that I am able to play around that, and then I have to make sure that I learn nuances, nitty-gritties of that language. So I know library functions of that language, and then I have to build things as well. Then I have to apply that as well. So that's a very intuitive flow of things, right? First, I should learn language, right? I should understand nuances of that language very properly, right? I should learn all the library functions that I have. Then whatever that I've learned, I should apply it. Then let's suppose I'm applying it to normal projects, small projects. Then I should apply for internships, and I should apply my knowledge to big scaled projects where the data is huge. For example, I apply for an internship in delivery or Zomato or Swiggy or similarly Uber, Ola. When I go to these kind of companies, whatever projects that I'm creating, they are also creating projects only, but they are creating things at scale. So when I do internship over there, then I would be able to understand that how the knowledge that I have, how it is being applied in a real setting. So that is very important. So doing an internship, and on the basis of all those things, at the end, I'll land up a job. I'll go to a full-time job, and similarly, slowly and steadily, my career will progress, right? There are many more phases after you get a job as well, but we'll not talk about that over here. Data structures and algorithms I was talking about. So it's the first thing that you have to do. Why I'm talking that? Because let's try to learn Java without data structures and algorithms. If you try to learn it without data structures and algorithms, it would become very difficult for you. You go and take that book called the complete reference in Java, or you go and take the book. Let's suppose there is a beautiful book. The book is really made very nice. Head First Java is a book written by Kathy Serra. It's completely theoretical. Everything is, she has tried to explain everything properly. It's completely a novel like book. But the problem is, I'll give you another scenario. She has written the book very well, but I'll give you another scenario. So let's suppose you want to learn about comparable interfaces, and let's suppose I teach you a data structure called priority queue. And then let's suppose I give you a problem that you have to find median in a running stream of integers, right? Uh, this is the problem that I'll do. When I'll give you this problem and then you would not be able to solve it, then I'll explain you that problem, how to solve that problem. And when you solve that problem, I'll teach you the application of comparable interface as well. This way you understand a theoretical concept like comparator and comparable interface. And this way you also understand priority queue, right? So then it becomes little interesting. And data structures are not learned through a book. There are a lot of books in the market, but I would not name them also because they have not done a good job. It's something that nobody can do a fair job, because data structures and algorithms is something that you learn by applying. Coding is something that you learn by doing, right? So that is something that you have to go through. So the ideal way would be to learn data structures and algorithms, and parallelly you should basically learn that language also. So for example, if I can give you a roadmap, I've talked about it a lot in all the webinars. Basically, the roadmap would be something like this. We start with variables. We start with basic concepts, how data is stored and what are variables and everything. So variables and data types are something that are taught in the very beginning. Then we go into something which is called conditional and loops. Then we go into applications of conditional loops, where you learn about patterns and all those things. Then I would recommend you to go into functions. This is the way in which we teach at Coding Ninjas. We then go into functions. From there, we go into arrays. And then we talk about all the applications that we have related to all those things that we have learned. Like, for example, we have binary search and all the sorting techniques that we have, or merge to sorted arrays. So the good thing about data structures and algorithms is that it teaches you that language in a fun way. And the things that we learn in a fun way, we never forget. Then the next thing that we'll do is we'll move to more elementary data structures like strings and 2D arrays. Then you will move to basically the founding block of everything that will be learned after this. So recursion is the foundation after everything that you learned over here. Then we'll go into linear data structures, like linked list is something that you should talk about. Stacks and queues is something that you should talk about. So these are linear data structure that you basically should learn. After that, what you should do is you should talk about non-linear data structures. And there is a heavy reliance on recursion over here. So you should understand trees over here. You should understand tries over here. Then you should understand hash maps over here. Hash map can be called a linear data structure. It's not a non-linear. I'm just writing it over here. So there is something called priority queues, which is a non-linear data structure. Then we talk about a complicated application of linear data structures and recursion, which is dynamic programming. Then at the end, you should talk about a complicated or a complex application of recursion and non-linear data structures. So that is graphs. So these are something that you should learn about. After recursion, one thing that I have forgotten to talk about is object-oriented programming. So you should learn about these things. You should learn about object-oriented programming as well. So this is the basic roadmap that you should learn. And this is the way in which you should tackle problems. So the first thing that you should do is you should do the breadth of the data structures and algorithms. You should basically cover all the data structures and algorithms. You shouldn't go into depth of anything. You just need to cover everything, right? This way, when you apply this approach, you would have learned a language. You would have covered a language. You would have got its nuances as well. Then after doing this, it depends on what path that you want to take. There are a lot of paths, right? There are, ideally, I would only talk about 3 paths. So from here, you can go into competitive programming as well. From here, you can go into web development as well. You can go into development as well, not just web development. You can go into Android development as well. From here, you can go into data science and machine learning as well. So what happens is, once you understand that language, once you understand data structures and algorithms, at that point of time, you get into language. You get into you start coding. Your hands get dirty with code. After that, you can choose one stream, right? So you can basically take competitive programming, you can take web development, or you can take machine learning, right? So take anything that you want. Everything basically, now after you have understood that language, now you should apply its libraries, and you should learn how its library can be used in competitive programming. Competitive programming is just an advanced version of the data structures and algorithms that you have learned. And so here you would be moving to depth. Web development is something which is you would be applying libraries to create websites, and machine learning is something where you would be using library functions and your mathematics to solve and basically to create insights out of the data. So these are 3 things. You have your ideal time. Then basically what you should do is you should learn one of these things. You should choose one of these things. And then basically what you should do is you should apply and you should create projects. Then based on those things, you should apply for internships. And based on the experience that you have got from your projects and from your internships, then you should apply for your full-time job. That's an ideal way that I'm talking about, right? This is something that you can do. I would recommend you to keep this thing as your uh, basic idea and basic ideal way to do things. Other than that, one other thing that I wanted to tell you was that you should not do too many things together, right? What people do is they are basically they become an M-shaped individual. I would ideally recommend everybody to become a T-shaped individual. So what is an M-shaped individual? Somebody who knows a lot of things, but he has a shallow knowledge of everything. He doesn't go into depths of everything. So you can see the bars of M are very small, right? I would ideally recommend that you should have a knowledge of web development as well. You should have a knowledge of machine learning as well. You should have a knowledge of competitive programming as well. You can take one of those things as the middle bar. So for example, let's suppose I want to become a machine learning engineer. So I'll make sure that my middle bar is machine learning. I should know about web development as well. I should know about data structures and algorithms as well, or competitive programming in general. I should know about these things as well, but I should be an expert in machine learning. The majority of my 3.5 years after I've learned my data structures and algorithms, after I have gone through that roadmap, majority of my time should be focused on machine learning, because these are so interrelated. For example, if I created something in machine learning, if I know how to deploy it, how to put it across to everybody, because web development is a nice and easy way to make it sure that it is basically seen by everybody. So if I'm able to deploy it, if I know development, I would be able to do that. Similarly, if I know development, if I want development to be my middle bar, then if I know machine learning, then it would help and refine my development. Data structures and algorithms obviously remains to be the backbone of both ML and web development. So I would recommend you to have one element and become expert in that. But I would also recommend you to have idea around other things as well. So I would ideally recommend you to become a generalized specialist. You are specialist in one, but you are a generalized person in other fields as well. You have an idea around that as well. So that's one piece of advice that I wanted to talk about. I'm talking about the first year students, obviously. I'm talking about the ideal way, the ideal path that you should follow. Over here, I'm talking about the ideal path. I'll talk about the second year, third year, and fourth year students as well. But as the time becomes less and less, what would happen is basically we have to cover the ideal path. We would be cutting upon something and we would basically moving ahead, right? So perfect. I just wanted to stop here a second so that I can go through the doubts. Right. So Aditi is asking what should be the book to learn data structure and algorithms. So if you want to learn book initially, and if you want to cover these things, I don't recommend book, because I don't think books are the ideal way to learn data structure and algorithms. You should, I have gone through a lot of books. I was not able to find one perfect book. So I would ideally recommend you to learn it online and then apply your concepts, solve questions on that. You can take an online course, like for example, if we have created a course on coding ninjas. Whatever things that we thought are missing in a book, whatever things that we thought which are missing in online, we have tried and curated a course for you, where basically things are taught, then questions are kept over here. Related to that, basically that's the way lecture is created. Then questions are also kept in the assignment as well, just to apply what are things you have learned in lecture. So that kind of environment is created, and all those things are created. So if you ask me, I would ideally recommend you to go for the course, right? But it depends on you. That's my word that I basically wanted you to see. Okay. Other than that, Nikhil is asking what are the data structures and algorithms we should start with first. This is the complete list that I have given you. This is the complete list that I have given you. So if I talk about NDS, Shiva Sai Ram, this is non-linear data structures, trees, tries, priority queues. Hash map is a linear data structures. I have written it this way. Right, right. Just to answer the question of Kaleem, the user with the username Kaleem, he's asking how much data structures and algorithm we should learn. You should learn it enough. Once you have that confidence that I would be able to solve more a new problem that is given to me, these are small activities that you have to do in the data. You would be given a small problem, you would be given a data, so you have to basically work around this till the point you are able to basically get that confidence. You have to solve it enough. If you are not able to solve enough, if somebody gives you a new problem and if you're not able to solve it, I would say you have not practiced enough. I would recommend you to practice more. So you have to practice enough, right? The answer is as simple as that, right? Okay, perfect. Now, again to answer, okay. Sachin is asking, do we have DSA questions in face-to-face interviews? Obviously, we have data structures and algorithms question in face-to-face. They sometimes ask you data structures and algorithms just to begin the conversation. They will ask that before diving deep into your resume, let me basically first break the ice, or I want to use a question as an icebreaker. So can you solve this question for me? Data structures and algorithms remains to be the major focus of the interview till now. So that's why the heavy reliance that we have on data structure and algorithms. That's why we learn data structure and algorithms so much. But even if DSLGO is asked so much, you have to make sure that you apply what you have learned as well. You have to be a T-shaped individual, I would say, because what you have to learn is to apply things. You have to create things. You are trying to become an engineer. If you will not engineer things, there is no point in learning all those things, right? You have to create things as well. Right. Okay. So there are many questions which are around what are basically the topmost questions asked in interview, and how basically questions are given in how basically we should prepare, and what are the topmost questions asked in an interview. I'll talk about that in a little while. Let me quickly cover something for the second year as well, then for the third year as well, and then for the fourth year as well. See, you have to basically cover things. So, for example, let's suppose if I'm in second year, I have enough time for going through the ideal way. Still, I have the enough time to go through the ideal way. It's just that that I don't have that first year that I basically would have had if I would have basically efficiently utilized it. So I don't have that initial 1 year, but you still would have some knowledge. You would have gone through your college semesters, and over there they talk about these things, right? Over there they have this course, data structures in C. There is a book called Frozen, which is used. So I would ideally say that even if you have gone through your college course subjects also, then also you have some knowledge in first year. It's not that you're starting from scratch in second year. So in second year also, I would recommend whatever ideal way, ideal path that I've talked about before this, I recommend you to go through that, right? There is no harm. If you are in third year, you've just started third year, and if you want to start things, so I would recommend that keep your third year, the fifth semester for data structures and algorithms course, complete this. Then in the sixth semester, try to apply those things, try to learn the nuances of development, and try to create some projects so that you can basically showcase it when your companies are coming in the seventh semester. Ideally, generally companies start coming in colleges in seventh semester for full-time roles. So you can basically keep your fifth semester for your data structures and algorithms. Then your sixth semester should be basically kept for learning dev related skills, and then you can ideally try to get internships in summer. And then starting with the seventh semester, you can revise all those things, because in the seventh semesters your company starts coming in, and focus on revising and basically learning everything before going into the interviews, right? So that's something that you should do. Land in a job. After you have landed a job, after you basically get a job, then whatever remaining time that is left with you in your final year, you should basically learn ML, and you should add that thing in your repository. You should add that knowledge to your stack of knowledge. Because what happens is once you go into the workforce, you would not get the time to learn things, because only disciplined people are able to learn when once they go into the workforce. There are so many tasks, there are so many things. Your priority list would basically bombarded with the task. Your office task, your work related things would be would take basically top spots, and you would basically be looking at urgent things, and rather than looking at important things, you would be thinking about things which are related to growth of the company. You would keep your personal growth aside, which ideally you should not do it. But people are not able to focus on the personal growth. Only people who are disciplined, only they are able to study. So that's why I would ideally say that seventh semester, the eighth semester, once you land up a job, then it's the time. That's the golden period that you have in these 4 years. You should ideally spend on learning, right? This is the golden time which will not come back, even if whatever amount of gold you give, right? That is something that I basically wanted to convey. Apart from that, if you are in fourth year, then I would say the first thing that you should do is whatever gaps that you had in your first 3 years. So you try to fill those gaps. Start with data structures and algorithms. I would ideally tell you to do the same thing again in your seventh semester. Learn data structures and algorithms. Still, there is enough time to learn these things. So then what you should do is in your eighth semester, you should start focusing on development, create projects. After you come out of your college, after you learn your development, try to get an internship. After you have some projects under your belt, try to get an internship, right? Try to get a job if you can get, right? Don't worry that my college is over and still I don't have an internship in my hand. I don't have a job in my hand. Even if you're able to get an internship, try to get that. You will get a PPO from there. Don't worry about that. Try to have basically try to have a job where you are basically applying your knowledge into a real world setting. You are applying to a product which is a scaled project. So you would learn a lot of things over there. Even if you get an internship, try to get that. Don't worry about that I don't have a job right now. After your eighth semester, you still have 1 year. Until your juniors don't get into the workforce, you will not be labeled fresher. Until you are not labeled fresher, and until basically you will still be labeled as a fresher, you would not be labeled as 1 year gap. So you still have 1 year, right? You will be labeled as fresher till the 1 year after your eighth semester gets over, and you still have ample amount of time. You can still land up a job. Until your juniors land up in the workforce, you still have time. You still have time. You can go through the off-campus jobs. You can go through these things. There are a lot of opportunities, right? And you can go through those things. Just be calm. There are a lot of people that I know which started with Hello World in the sixth semester, and they are now working very fine, very fine. So I just wanted to talk about this thing that it's just about if you want to change your life, it's just about spirited performance of 1 year or 1.5 year. It's just about 1 or 1.5 year. If you give that spirited performance of 1 and 1.5 year, your life will change then and there only, right? So that is something that I want to talk about. Now, once we have talked about how second year, third year, and fourth year round goes, now let's specifically talk about how data structures and algorithms, how should we prepare for the DS and Algo round, and how exactly should we tackle problems, how should we prepare? These are the two questions that I want to answer. One is how should we prepare, and how should we solve questions. I would be solving 3 questions today. And on the basis of those 3 questions, I would basically try to explain you how exactly should you tackle those problems in a real life setting. Okay, I just wanted to quickly go into the chat so that I just wanted to see if you have any questions. If you have any questions, just put it in the chat section. I'll go through each and every question, I promise. So I would be happy to answer your questions. Yeah, Rivant, I'm coming to your questions. The topmost questions that are asked in interviews. Uh, Ideally, there are categories of questions. They are not any topmost question. There is no any list. Mrudu, to answer your question, that depends on you. What you enjoy most. If you enjoy development, I talked about that there are very small bars in tea. You should become a T-shaped individual. There are very small bars in tea, and there is a middle bar which is the longest. So you have to decide which bar you want to keep the longest. The one that you enjoy should be kept as the longest, right? Okay. Any idea around projects? So to answer that, Dipesh, I'll share a session with you, and in that session, they have elaborately talked about how should we get the ideas for the projects, and how should we choose which projects to be kept in resume, and all those queries. That was a very informative session, which happened a few days ago, and it was answered by people who I personally admire, and I would basically love to listen their advices. And Aman, Jaideep, Mohit, they all answered the queries. So I'll share that link with you after this webinar in the comment section, and then you would get all your answers answered. All your queries would be answered. Right, right. Okay, so now I think I have answered enough questions. Now let's talk about these problem solving skills. Now let's talk about these two questions: how to prepare and how to solve questions, how to tackle questions. So first, let me talk about how to prepare. How to prepare. So to answer how to prepare, what I would say is that the answer is very intuitive also. You cannot prepare for each and every question that you have, right? So how do we prepare for something, right? Anybody can give you a new question and he can test your ability. You cannot prepare for each and every question. So you have to bring that twist, you have to bring that tweak, and with the tweak, with the twist, you would be able to answer question. If you are able to bring that flexibility, if you are able to get to that level where you have practiced enough questions, right? That is the level that I want to reach to prepare for interviews. I cannot prepare for all the questions. So what we need to do is, there are certain categories that basically we should talk about. Before going into those categories, what I should talk about is how a person learns. So a person learns through patterns only. So what it does is, let's suppose a new question is given to you. So how would you answer that question? You would answer that question from the previous patterns that you have already made, right? So if you have basically solved a question earlier, and if a twisted or tweaked version of that question is given to you, you would solve that question from the insight that you got from the previous question. So let's suppose we have 5 patterns in a mind. Let's suppose I've solved only 5 questions in my life. A new question comes to me. I would try to solve this question through these 5 things. If I'm not able to solve it, I've learned it as a new pattern. So pattern based learning is done by most of the people, right? So I'll talk about how to prepare things based on patterns. There is another way, which is based on the original thinking, that you are tackling problems as they are coming. But from the teacher perspective and the way things are to be learned, I would be talking about pattern based learning over here. So there, I'll create categories of questions. So for example, let's suppose I have solved around 50 questions, and those 50 questions were based on 5 categories. So for example, let's talk about the category called sliding window. So, and similarly, let's talk about a category called 2-pointer. Similarly, let's talk about something called as BFS, and let's talk about something called as DFS, and let's talk about something called as let's say array as an hash map approach, or the one that we would be talking about today is basically let's write array as a hash map only over here, right? So I would basically, whatever 50 questions that I've created, I'll basically, whatever 50 questions that I've learned them categorically. Somebody gives me a new question. So for example, somebody gives me a new question, and let's suppose that is based on Fibonacci pattern of dynamic programming. I have not solved Fibonacci up till now. So I would not be able to solve that question from the previously solved pattern. I would create a new pattern. I would say that this is a new pattern, which is called Fibonacci based DP question, right? So I'll create a new pattern. So this way I'll do. Let's suppose I solve 400 questions. Each of those 4 questions, I'll categorically make patterns in my mind. I'll solve question categorically. If a new question comes to me, I'll first try to solve it from the categories that I've already solved. If I'm not able to solve them from the categories that I've already made, I'll create a new category of questions, or I'll keep something called as miscellaneous, right? So that's how you prepare for data structures and algorithms, right? Now let's talk about another thing which I basically wanted to deal. So I wanted to talk about how do we solve data structures and algorithms. For that, what I want to do is I want to quickly share this link with you. This is the link that we have. I've created this test. So I'm sharing it over here. What I want from you is just go to this link, and as you start, you will see 3 problems. So what we will do is we will basically go into this contest and we will try to solve these questions, right? The first question which I have written over here, it is based on sliding window that I was talking about, the category sliding window. The second question that I have over here is based on the Fibonacci based pattern of dynamic programming, right? It's something which is very similar to Fibonacci problem. And unival trees is a question which is based on, you can say, the depth first search of trees. It's based on the depth first way of traversal in trees. So I would recommend you to come to this platform, and I would recommend you to start this test. We would be solving these 3 questions today. And this is my prime motive, that I'm able to explain you how exactly should you deal with the problem, right? And the event that you would have after this webinar on 17th would have questions based on these patterns only, right? So if I can quickly tell you, if I can quickly explain you what are the 3 patterns that we have over here. The first question that I have over here is based on sliding window. So even if you don't have an idea about sliding window, don't worry about that. We would be learning sliding window using this question only. So I would quickly request you to all come up to this so that we can start with the test. Okay. Okay, perfect. So what I want to do over here is, let me talk about the first question that I have over here, right? So the first question that I have over here is that I have given a string S and the length of that string is N, right? And I have given an integer K. I have to find the longest substring with at most K distinct characters. There is a test case. So let me explain this question properly to you. So if the example which is given to me is A, B, C, BA. So I'm given a string with length 5, right? The number of characters that I have in my string is 5. So the length of the string is 5. Now the value of K which is given to me is 2. So I have to find the longest substring which contains at most 2 characters, which contains at most 2 distinct characters. So the answer to this would be BCB. So the longest substring which contains at most 2 distinct characters is BCB. Similarly, let me take another example. These are the sample examples which are given in the question itself. If you scroll down the question below, you will be able to see the sample questions. Similarly, I have A, B, C, 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 right? So over here, let's suppose the value of, obviously the value of N would be 5 and the value of K, let's suppose, is 1. So I have to find the longest substring where the number of distinct characters is 1. So the answer would again be CCC. The answer would be 3. I just have to return the length. So the answer for both of them would be 3. So I have to return the longest substring, right? So any ideas around this question? How should we solve this question? How should we solve this question? One idea that I want to throw is, let's try to be as communicative as possible. So try to throw your approaches to this question. Try to put whatever approach that comes to your mind in the chat section. So over here, what we are trying to, what I'm trying to explain you over here is how to tackle interview questions. So whenever you are given with a question, the first thing that you should ask is, you should ask as many questions as possible so that the question is clear to you. So over here, one thing that I want to ask the interviewer is that explain me whether there would be all lowercase characters, or would there be all capital characters, uppercase characters, or what would be the range of the characters. So it's elaborately answered over here. It's answered over here that the characters of the string will be basically all lowercase English alphabets. Time limit is given over here. All the constraints on K and N are given to you, right? So everything is given over here. Everything is clearly mentioned over here, right? So you should ask questions. The first thing that you should basically make sure is that you should ask questions, right? So Atishay is saying that he's not able to understand the question. So I will again elaborate for you. You are given with two things. One is N and other is K. N is basically the number of characters that we have in the string. So let's suppose the value of N is 5. And let's suppose the string that we have is A, B, C, B, A. K is, let's suppose, 2. So we have to find that substring. We have to find that longer substring which has at most 2 characters, 2 distinct characters. To make it more simple, we have to find that substring which has at most 2 distinct characters. अब ज्यादा से ज्यादा आपके पास 2 डिस्टिंक्ट कैरेक्टर्स हो सकते हैं, राइट? सो जैसे यहाँ पे इफ यू विल टेक द होल स्ट्रिंग, देयर वुड बी 3 डिस्टिंक्ट कैरेक्टर्स. If you only take BCB, there would be only be 2 distinct characters, right? So the longest substring that you can take, which can have a maximum of 2 distinct characters, is BCB, right? Okay. Naman is basically, then first thing is, let me quickly try to basically come up with an approach to tackle data structure and algorithms question in a real interview setting. So the first thing that we basically should do is we should ask as many questions as possible. And the interviews are also very friendly. Interviewers are friendly. They would help you answer each and every question. They'll give you hints also. So as many questions as you ask, it gives you that you are not, you are inquisitive. You are not based on rote learning. You are actually trying to learn. You are actually trying to solve the problem. You are actually trying to unearth all the 3 segments: why of the solution, how of the solution, and what of the solution. So that is something very important. You have to ask questions. The second thing is, start with the brute force approach. Start with the most naive approach that you can basically think of. So over here, one approach that basically we are doing was counting using loops, right? Then Sachin told that if you will use loops, that would be very inefficient. And so first, let me explain you with the help of 2 loops how you would be solving this question. So you take this character, you'll start with this character, try to find the longest substring with at most 2 distinct characters. So the longest substring that I can get is AB. Starting with A, the longest substring that you can get is AB. Starting with B, the longest substring that you get would be BCB. Starting with C, the longest substring that you can get is CB only. Starting with this B, the longest substring that you can get is BA. And starting with this A, you would only be able to get only basically 1 character. So I'm starting with this character and I'm looking in this direction only, right? So that's why you are starting with that character. Now your substring is starting with that character. So if my starting character of the substring is this, so I would be able to see in this direction only, right? So in this, I would be able to find the longest substring with at most K characters, K distinct characters. The answer would be 3. That's the most naive approach. Sachin is asking that we can take a window and we can keep increasing and decreasing according to the value of K. I would explain this in a much better way. Thank you, Sachin. we have to do some window. We have to increase the window. We have to decrease the window. We have to do something related to window. Let me elaborately explain what Sachin is hinting at. So A, B, C, B, A. Let's suppose this is the string which is given to me. I'll keep two parameters. One is the start parameter and other is the end parameter. To begin with, I'll keep my start and end pointers over here. Let's keep the end pointer above and let's keep the start pointer over here. So what I'll do over here is, to begin with, I'll basically keep my start pointer over here and I'll keep my end pointer over here, right? One thing that you have to notice over here is that there are only 26 characters that I can keep, right? So, so there are only 26 characters, so I can quickly create an array of size 26, right? Okay, so I'm creating an array of size 26. To begin with, everything over here would basically be 0. I'm creating a frequency map over here. I'm creating a frequency map over here. So for example, if I want to find A, right? So I can basically map A to this index. I can map B to this index. I can map C to this index. How would I be able to do that? Just whatever character that you have, just subtract it with A. So the ASCII value of A is 97, I think. So if, let's suppose if you have C over here, so C minus A, C is 99. So C minus A would give me 2, which is exactly equivalent to the index that I have mapped with C. So this mapping is something that I will use. This mapping is something that I will use. Don't worry about this part. Just try to follow my lead. So I'm keeping the count of distinct characters till now, right? And I've kept a frequency map over here. Everything is 0 to begin with, right? And C is kept as 0. My start pointer is kept over here. My end pointer is kept over here, right? My window would be represented by start to end characters. End is not included. End is not included, right? So start to end -1. So the window is currently representing the string. The window is currently representing the substring which starts at S and it goes up to end -1, right? This is something that I wanted to talk about. Okay. So to begin with, what I'll do is I'll check what is kept at the end. What is kept at the end? It's A, right? And then basically I'll go to the frequency map. What is kept over here? That 0 is kept over here. That means I am visiting this A for the first time. So what I'll do is I'll simply go and increment this part. If I'm incrementing something from 0 to 1, that means I'm visiting it for the first time. इसका मतलब कि वो मेरा एक नया character आया है. अगर if I'm increasing the frequency from 0 to 1, इसका मतलब I visited a new character. So I'll increase the count of distinct characters to 1. So one simple thing that I would basically write over here, that if the frequency of the character is basically double equal to 0, right? If I'm visiting that character for the first time, this means I'm visiting the character for the first time. So what I'll do is I'll do count plus plus. I'll increment the count of distinct characters. And then what I'll do is I'll increment the end as well, because I've taken into account, and now I'll move over here, right? Then what I'll do is, the next thing that I'll do over here is I'll do the same thing for B as well, because I can use at most k distinct characters. I can use at most k distinct characters. Currently, how many distinct characters that I have? I have only one distinct character, right? So I'll again go to B. B is also 0. I'll make it 1, right? And since I've incremented from 0 to 1, so I'll increment the count, and then I'll make my end further ahead, right? So my count of distinct characters is exactly equal to k now, right? So I've exactly reached to the point where the count of distinct characters is exactly equal to 2, is exactly equal to k. But I will not stop here. It may happen that the next character is also B. That way I can include that B also, right? So let's move ahead. Now I come to C. So in C, what I can see over here is that over here also the value corresponding to C was 0. So I've incremented and I've made it 1. So I'll make it 3, right? As soon as I made it 3, I'll increment my end plus plus, right? So now I can see my string that I have is ABC, and it has 3 distinct characters, which is more than the distinct characters that I have for, which is more than my allowed set of distinct characters. So what I have done over here is I have incremented my window till I get greater than k distinct characters, or till I get exactly equal to k plus 1 distinct characters, right? The maximum size of the window that I could get so far is 2 only, A and B. As soon as I included another element over here, my window became invalid. My window became invalid, right? My window became invalid over here, right? So what I can see over here is my window became invalid over here. So now I have to decrease the window, right? I have to decrease the size of the window till the window becomes again valid, right? Let me share the idea again with you. So if A, B, C, B, A is given to me, I'll start with this and I'll keep on incrementing the window till basically the number of distinct characters is less than equal to K. I'll keep on increasing the window till number of distinct characters is less than equal to K. As soon as my number of distinct characters becomes equal to K, I'll stop. It becomes greater than K, I'll stop. As soon as it becomes greater than K, I'll stop. Right? Why I've stopped you over here is because my window has become invalid now. Now I'll remove the characters from start till the point, I'll remove the window, I'll remove the characters from the starting till basically this window again becomes valid. I'll do that part, right? Okay. Now if I remove A, again my window becomes valid. Now I'll again try to increase the size of the window till it remains valid. So as soon as basically it becomes valid, so I went to B, now also it's valid. Then I basically took another element A, it became invalid. So I'll remove the characters from the start till it remains invalid. So I'll basically, I've taken A into place, I've removed B, then also it's invalid. I've removed C, then it becomes valid. Then I have only 2 characters. Then I again basically try to increase the size of the window, but now I cannot do anything. I have reached to the end of the string. So as you can see, you have to count all the valid strings. So I basically came across A, B, C, B, and I came across BA. These are the 3 valid strings that I basically came across. Out of all the valid string, what is the maximum size that I have? I have BCB, right? I have BCB, right? So BCB would be my answer. So you keep increasing the size of the window till it remains valid. As soon as it becomes invalid, we have to start decreasing this from the start. We have to start decreasing from the start till it again becomes valid. Right? As soon as it becomes valid again, then I'll try to basically increase the size of the window again. As soon as it becomes invalid, I'm trying to make it maximum valid string. I'm trying to stretch it to the limits so that it becomes maximum valid string. I'm trying to make it maximum valid string. How do I make it maximum valid? By making it invalid. By just making it invalid. Right? By just making it invalid. So that is something that I'm trying to do over here. Right? If you have understood this part, just try to apply it over here. Right? Just try to apply whatever knowledge that I've shared with you. Try to solve it over here. If you're still not able to understand, let me know. I'll again go through the whole part, right? There is a leaderboard over here. I can see people that are basically solving the question, that are basically going through the test over here. So if somebody has solved, I can see the leaderboard over here. Ashwin has solved one question. Probably it's the loot houses. So I can see people who are solving the question. I would ideally recommend you to solve the first question. So Praveen, we would ideally do the complexity analysis after we have done the, after we have written the code. So if somebody has a doubt, just let me know. To answer your question, Atisha, we will have the recording for this webinar. You would be able to use the webinar for the recording. You are able to understand the approach, right? Just let me know if you're not able to understand the approach. What I'm doing is I'm increasing the size of the window. I'm increasing the size of the window to the extent that it becomes invalid. After it becomes invalid, then I again make it valid, and then basically I again increase its size, and I again make it invalid. So I am making its maximum valid length, right? So I'm making it maximum valid, right? I hope you understood this point. Just let me know in the chat section if you have understood this point. बहुत ही सिंपल फॉर्मूला यहाँ पे अप्लाई कर रहा हूं मैं, या आतिशा आई कैन एक्सप्लेन अगेन. सो मैं यहां से शुरू कर रहा हूं, मैं इसको लिमिट तक लेके जा रहा हूं. इसका मैं मैक्सिमम 2 डिस्टिंक्ट कैरेक्टर्स यूज कर सकता हूं. सो मैं 3 डिस्टिंक्ट कैरेक्टर्स पे जाके रुकूंगा. I would stop at 3 distinct characters. I'm increasing my window. I'll stop at 3 distinct characters, right? So I'm trying to get the maximum window length, right? So basically I have these 3 characters. मैंने इसको invalid बना दिया. अब इसको मैं दोबारा valid बनाऊंगा. इसको valid बनाने के लिए मुझे a को छोड़ना पड़ेगा. मैं a को छोड़ देता हूं यहाँ पे, right? अब दोबारा से valid हो गया ये. अब दोबारा से वैलिड हो गया. अब मैं इसकी वैलिडिटी को दोबारा और एक्सट्रीमिटीज पे लेके जाऊंगा. सो मैं और बड़ा करूंगा. आई एम इंक्रीजिंग इट अगेन. तो यहाँ पे बी को लिया, अभी भी वैलिड है. सो यहां पर और इंक्रीज करूंगा, ए पे जाके इनवैलिड हो जाएगा. ठीक है, ए पे जाके इनवैलिड हो जाएगा. फिर मैं आगे से छोड़ता जाऊंगा जब तक कि स्ट्रिंग वैलिड ना हो जाए. अभी इसके अंदर कितने डिस्टिंक्ट कैरेक्टर्स है? 3 डिस्टिंक्ट कैरेक्टर्स है. सो मैं आगे से छोड़ता जाऊंगा. बी को छोड़ूंगा, अब भी कितने डिस्टिंक्ट कैरेक्टर्स है? 3 है. सी बी ए. सी को छोड़ूंगा, अब कितने डिस्टिंक्ट कैरेक्टर्स है? अब सिर्फ एक डिस्टिंक्ट, अब सिर्फ 2 डिस्टिंक्ट कैरेक्टर्स हैं, विच इज अ वैलिड स्ट्रिंग, राइट? फिर उसके बाद मैं और इसको इंक्रीज करूंगा, तो यहां पे बेसिकली एंड ऑफ द स्ट्रिंग आ गया. सो मैंने यहां पर 3 सब स्ट्रिंग्स को ट्रेवर्स किया, ए बी, बी सी बी एंड बी ए. मैं सिर्फ जस्ट टू आंसर योर क्वेश्चन रश्मि, आई एम जस्ट गोइंग थ्रू द लॉन्गेस्ट सब स्ट्रिंग्स, right? I'm just going through longest substrings, right? So I have missed CB. I know that part, that I missed CB, but why I have missed CB, we have to see. It's not making any difference whether I take CB or whether I don't take CB. It's not making any difference, right? I have taken BCB, which is a much bigger version. So let's suppose I have something which is basically, let's suppose let's talk about something called ABB, or let's take BA. Let's take BAB. So if I basically, if I include BAB, then obviously I would not include AB, or I would not include BA, because I'm taking the bigger version. So if I take the bigger version, then basically I would leave the smaller version, smaller composed strings that I have, right? So बड़ा string लोगे तो छोटे वाला substring को छोड़ना पड़ेगा. I hope Rashmi, now I was able to answer your question, right? Okay. Atishay got it. Okay, so I would ideally recommend you to solve this question. I'm solving it for you over here, right? And what you should do over here is you should try and understand how I'm implementing it. The first step of solving any question, the first step of tackling any question, what we should do is, in the first step, we should basically try to ask as many questions as possible. Then we should try to solve it through the brute force approach. Then we should try to optimize it. And after we have optimized it, then the next step should be to come up with an optimal approach, right? Once we have reached to that optimal approach, then the next thing that interviewer will tell you is implement it, right? When the interviewer says you to implement it, this is how you would implement it. Whatever you have given, whatever you explained in the approach, you have to use that approach. Whatever you have explained in the teaching part, whatever you were explaining the concept to him, at that point of time, whatever algorithm that you have used, you have to apply that algorithm over here. So I hope the screen is still visible to you. I have increased the font so that it can be easily seen. So I would apply the same approach that I've used over there. So I'm saying the count of distinct characters. To begin with, I'll take it as 0. Next thing that I'll do is I'll take 2 variables. One is int start equal to 0 and end equal to 0, the valid window that I'll have is from start to end -1, right? End is not included in the valid string. Then one other thing that I was doing was I was taking the frequency array. So I will take the frequency array over here, something like this. And the frequency array would have a frequency array would have 26 elements. So I would keep something like this over here. Now I think I'm good to go. So I have everything over here. So I can quickly start over here and I can basically, I will say that I should apply this loop up till my end is less than string.length, which is s.length, right? Until the index that I'm working upon, it is less than the string.length. Up till that point of time, I can basically work upon it, right? Right. So let me traverse over each and every valid string, right? Then after that, I'll find the maximum out of it afterwards. So first, let me traverse over each and every substring, right? So the first thing that I'll do is I'll find the index of that character. So I'm standing at the character at end index. So what I should do is I should find the index of the end character. It would be equal to, I just told you, it would be equal to s.char at end minus a. This will give you the index, right? After you have the index, what you should do is you should basically check whether the frequency of index, the frequency area of index, whether it was equal to 0 or whether it was not equal to 0. If it was equal to 0, that means you have found a new distinct character, right? You have found a new distinct character. So your count of distinct characters should be changed, right? So your count of distinct characters should be increased. So what I'll do is I'll quickly go and I'll increase the count of my distinct characters over here, right? Apart from that, obviously, I have to increase the count of my frequency index, right? If it's a previous character that I have come across, if it is what it was basically already, I have already come across that character, then the frequency value of that character would not be equal to 0. But obviously, then also I would increment the count of the frequency, right? So that is something that I will do, right? Now, the next thing that I should basically do over here is I should ask whether the count of distinct characters, is it still less than equal to k or is it become greater than k, right? So I should ask a simple thing over here. Let me quickly ask that thing, whether the count of distinct characters that I have, is it less than equal to k or is it greater than k? If it is greater than k, what I have to do is I have to reduce the size of my window from the starting till the point my string becomes valid again. So let me write about the while part first, right? First, let me write about the while part. So while the count of distinct characters becomes again less than equal to k, I'll keep on decreasing it, right? Right? So I'll keep on decreasing it. So while the count of distinct characters, it doesn't becomes less than equal to k, I'll keep on decreasing, right? So here I'll write the code for decreasing the count, right? So I'll keep looping this loop until the count of distinct characters is greater than k. So the first thing that I have to do over here is I have to find that character, and from where should I basically traverse? I should traverse from straight, right? I should traverse from the start, right? So here, what I should do over here is that I should first I should take the index of the start character. So index of the start character. So it would be equal to s.char at start minus a. It should be something like this, right? After that, what I can do is I can do start plus plus, or let's do start plus plus afterwards. So I've taken the index. Then what I should do is I should check the frequency of this. So what would be the frequency of this index? So let me quickly see. This character has to be removed. So for removing these two, this character, what I'll do is first I'll do First, I'll do frequency index of start minus minus, right? Let me quickly do that. Then I'll do start plus plus, right? That is something that I wanted to do. Apart from that, what I should do is now I should check that after decreasing the frequency, has the frequency became equal to 0? If the frequency has become equal to 0, that means my count of distinct character should be decreased by 1. You got my point? I'm basically decreasing my start window from the starting. I've got the index for the starting index from the for the starting character. I've decreased its frequency. If the frequency has now become equal to 0, that would mean that I've removed one distinct characters. As soon as my count of distinct characters becomes equal to 0, as soon as my frequency becomes equal to 0, I'll decrease the count of distinct characters. This is something that I'll do. I'll get out of the loop when my count of distinct characters becomes equal to less than or equal to k, right? That is something that I'll do, right? So this is how I'll be decreasing my window. This is how I would be decreasing my window. Now let's talk about if my window is already within the range. Even if my window is within the range, what I will do is I will first basically talk about this part. So even if it's within the range, even if the count of distinct characters is within the range, I have taken into account. And basically what I've done over here is I have already taken into account for this end index, right? One thing that I've not done over here is I have not done end plus plus. End plus plus is something that you have to do, right? Then one thing that I have to do is over here, the only thing I think I should do over here is I should do nothing over here. I should do nothing over here, right? Because I have included that last end character into my window, right? I have already included my last character into my window, right? And still the count of distinct characters is less than equal to k. I've increased my end. I should not do nothing over here. I should not do anything, right? So if the count of distinct characters becomes greater than k, then I should decrease the size of the window. So this is the code that I have written for decreasing the size of the window, right? So over here, I am traversing over each and every window. The only thing now I have to do is I have to find the maximum length. For that, what I'll do over here is I'll basically keep two variables. One is maximum length equal to 0 and other is the current length equal to 0. I've taken these two elements, right? So over here, after doing n plus plus, my current length would be equal to, it would be equal to end minus start. You all agree with it, right? So I'll do end minus start. Now in the do nothing part, I'll just ask this question over here. If max length becomes less than the current length, then what will happen over here is, then I'll update my max length over here with the value of current length, right? Obviously, this updation part should be done over here only. When my count of distinct characters is less than equal to k, when I am maximizing my valid string, that is the point where I should basically do this part. Got it? Right. So after I come out of the loop, while my end becomes less than equal to string dot length. So after I come out of the loop over here, so this is the complete loop that I have written over here. So after I come out of the loop, then what I should do over here is I should return max length over here, right? This is the point where I should return my max length, right? Let me quickly see if I have written everything correct or not. So let me quickly see everything is correct, right? This is how I should have done this question, right? So that is something that basically I should have done. So now let me try and test it out on smaller test cases. So let's take this test case. So let's write this test case over here and let's try to find whether my answer would be correct or not. There are two test cases which are given to me. One test case, the value of the k is 2 and the string would be A, B, C, B, A, and the other string would be 1 and A, B, C, C, C. Let's try and test it out whether the answer to this would be correct or not. Whether the answer to this would be correct or not. So my output is 3, and obviously the expected output is also 3, right? Now let me quickly submit and let me see whether my answer is coming correct or not, right? So all the test cases are coming correct. So that is one thing that I wanted to talk about, right? So this is the pattern of sliding window, right? I hope you have got this part, right? So this is one thing that I wanted to talk about. Let me quickly go and see the leaderboard. So if I can quickly go and see the leaderboard, there are a lot of people. There are not many people who have submitted till now. I'm the first person who have solved this question with the score 80. I would recommend other people also to start solving this question, right? So try to solve this question, right? Ashwin has already solved this loot houses question, right? So I wanted this webinar to be more of a fun and engaging webinar. We still have 38 minutes to go in this test. So I think I would be able to solve this whole test with the explanation part also within these 38 minutes, right? So I would ideally recommend all the people to try to solve this question. Link for this test I had already shared. I'm again sharing over here. So the link for this is already shared. I'm again sharing it over here, right? So yeah. So do you want me to basically stay back with this question a little more, or should I move to the next question? Should I move to the next question? So Aditya, to answer your question, I would say that whether the question is sliding window or not, you would basically get to know it from the solution. Once you go through the solution, you would understand that one of the approaches to solve this question is from sliding window. So I am telling you that learn categorically, right? Learn categorically, go through the questions, go through the approaches, go through 10, 12 question on sliding window. You will basically have an understanding how these sliding window questions are. Solve questions on dynamic programming, 10, 20 questions on Fibonacci type of dynamic programming. You will get to understand what Fibonacci type of dynamic programming is. Loot house is the Fibonacci type of dynamic programming. And then this is something, unival tree is the DFS, depth first traversal way of solving trees question. So you should question, you should solve questions categorically. There are tags on other websites that we use for interview preparation. You can use those tags, and from the tag you can basically solve. Depth first traversal, Fibonacci based dynamic programming, and sliding window are very popular tags. So you can use that. So going to the next question, we have only 36 minutes left. Let's try to achieve this part. Okay, so this question that I have is, there are tags in LeetCode that you can use. You can use techydelight.com. There are so many websites that you can use, right? So I just wanted to share that with you, Aditya. Apart from that, the next question that we have is loot houses. So in this question, we have something which is called as 5, then we have 5, then we have 10 over here, then we have 100 over here, then we have 10 over here, and then we have 5 over here. The number of elements that we have are 6, right? So I have to find the maximum amount of gold that a thief can loot. He can basically steal. So these are houses. This is the first house. This is the second house. This is the third house that we have. This is fourth house. This is fifth house. And this is sixth house. He cannot steal from adjacent houses. So let's suppose, for example, he is stolen from this house. Then he cannot steal from this house. Let's suppose if he has stolen from this house, then he cannot steal from these two houses. So he cannot steal from adjacent houses, right? So that's the most important thing that we have to take care over here. So we have to find the maximum amount of gold that he can steal if he is not stealing from adjacent houses. So over here, the answer to this is 110. How do we achieve 110? I would steal this house. I would steal from this house, and I would steal from, let's suppose, this house. So if I take these three houses, I would be able to get gold equivalent to 5 kg plus 100 kg and 5 kg, right? So if we have to solve this question, then this is something that I have to basically do in this, right? I have to find the maximum amount of gold that I can steal, right? Okay. Now let's try to solve this question. So let's try to come up with the brute force approach, right? So if we try to come up with the brute force approach, what we are going to do over here is I'm going to apply recursion for that. Recursion is one way to solve the question. It's a brute force way to solve the question. So over here, what I'm going to do over here is I'm going to start with the first house, or the house whose amount of gold is given at the 0th index. So what I'm going to do over here is I'm going to start at the 0th index, and basically I'm going to apply two recursive approaches over here, right? In the first approach, I'll say is that I'll steal and I'll keep the 5th index. I'll steal and I'll keep the this amount of gold, right? If I steal 5, if I steal from 5, then I cannot steal from this bag. Then I would be able to steal from this amount of array only, right? I would not be able to steal from this first house, this element which is kept at first index. Earlier, I was given the entire array. I was told that the entire array is given to you, 0 to 5 is given to you, and you have to steal from it. I said that I'll keep the 0th index element. If I keep the 0th index element, then I'll say find the maximum out of 2 to 5. Find the maximum out of 2 to 5. Find the maximum out of this. Maximum out of this would be 105. And I can keep this 5 attached to 105. So my answer would be 105 plus 5. My maximum that I can get would be 110. The other way that I can solve this question is I'll say I'll not take 5 into it. There are two approaches only. There are two ways only. Not two approaches, two ways only. One is that I can keep 5 into the solution. I can say that 5 will be kept into the solution plus maximum of this array, which is 105. The other way is I'll say that 5 will not be kept into the solution and I will find the maximum of 1 to 5. I'll find the maximum of 1 to 5. What is the maximum of 1 to 5? Maximum of 1 to 5 would be 105 only. Sorry, maximum of 1 to 5 would be, if I have this much amount of array only, then the maximum amount of gold that I can buy is I can basically steal this one, I can steal this one, I can steal this one. So over here also the maximum that I can get is 110, right? So what I'll do is I'll find the maximum without keeping 5 into the solution, and I'll get the solution keeping 5 into the solution, right? So what I have to do over here is I have to find maximum out of these two. So the value that I got from here is 110. The value that I got without keeping 5 into the solution, that was also 110, right? So this is how I would solve this question. But this is the recursive approach. I'll form the complete tree with the help of this. So let me form complete tree with the help of it. So let's quickly say that to begin with, you are given the complete array to solve, right? So you are given 5, 10, 100, and then you are again given 5, I think. Sorry, you are again given 10, and then you are given 5. So you are told that find the answer for 0 to 5, right? You can use recursion in this, and I'm using recursion over here. So you are given the entire array to begin with. You said that 5 will come into the answer. So the remaining array that is left to you is 2 to 5. Over here, you said that 5 will not come into the solution. The array which is left to you is 1 to 5. Recursion will basically use the same approach to 2 and 5 also. So over here, I'll say that 2 will come into the solution. If 2 comes into the solution, that means 10 will come into the solution and 10 will not come into the solution. If 10 comes into the solution, I'll say that my answer would be dependent on 4 to 5. My answer would be dependent on 4 to 5, right? My answer would be dependent on 4 to 5. Whatever answer would come from 4 to 5, I would be dependent on that. Similarly, if 2 comma 5, if 2 is not coming into the solution, my answer would be same as 3 comma 5, right? For 4 comma 5, I'll basically ask two questions from it. Whether fourth index would come, which is 10, whether it would come or it would not come. If it comes, my answer would be 6 comma 5, which is nothing. Starting from 6, ending at 6, there is no array. So the answer for this would be 0, right? So the maximum of 4 comma 5, if I keep 10 into the solution, it would be 10 plus 0, which would be 10. If answer of 4 comma 5, if I'm not keeping 10 into the solution, then it would basically make a recursive call to 5 to 5. There is only one element in 5 to 5. So the answer for this would be 5. My answer would be maximum of 10 plus 0 and 5. My answer would be 10. My answer would be 10. So answer of 4 comma 5 would be 10. Answer of 2 comma 5, keeping 10 into the solution, would be 10 plus 10. It would be 20. Similarly, if I'm not keeping 10 into the solution, it will make a recursive call to 3 comma 5. It will make a recursive call to 3 comma 5. So for 3 comma 5, the answer I already know. I will not make the tree for 3 comma 5. I'll directly solve it. For 3 comma 5, the answer is 100 plus 5. The answer is 100 plus 5. What it is, it's 100 plus 5. So it would be 105. If I don't keep 2 into the answer, then my maximum would be 105. If I keep 2 in the answer, my maximum would be 20. Out of these two, what is the maximum? My maximum would be 105. So it means to say that if the array which is given to you is 10, 100, 10 and 5, maximum would be 105, and it would come when you don't keep 2 into the solution. It's fair enough, right? The answer for 2 comma 5 was 105. I'll add 5 into it and my answer would come 110. The other thing, I'm not building the whole tree over here, but if I don't keep 5 into the solution, the maximum that I'll get from here would be 110. The maximum of 0 comma 5 would be maximum of these two, which would be 110. It is exactly the answer that we are looking for, right? But I have solved this question through recursion, right? I was talking about Fibonacci. So similarly, the way Fibonacci can be solved using dynamic programming, the way Fibonacci can be solved, I'll similarly solve this question, right? So I'll solve this question using recursion, right? Fibonacci can be solved using recursion. It's a very basic and very intuitive question. So I'll basically apply Fibonacci over here. I'll apply recursion over here. So let me quickly write an approach. But recursion cannot be applied to the function that is given to me over here. So I'll create a helper function over here. So let me quickly create a helper function. Let me increase the font. Let me quickly see the time which is left over here. 26 minutes are left for us. So perfect. Let's try to solve this question. And we have to solve another question. So let me quickly try to solve this question. So I'll use a helper function over here. And what I'll do is I'll start with, I'll basically pass two values. One is array and other is array comma 0, right? I'll say array comma 0, right? So these are the two things. Let me quickly write my helper function over here. So private static int max money, or not max money, I have to call for helper function, right? I'll quickly revise this question once again. Don't worry about that, Aditya. I'm just going through the approach right now, right? I basically, let me implement this question. Then I'll again go through this question, right? So I'll go through the option one. Option one is the option when I'm not including this index, right? So option one was the option that, when I included this index, sorry. And option two was the option when I didn't include this index. So I'll go through both of these things. So if I'm including this index, my answer would be array of index plus helper of array comma index plus 2, right? I have to skip index plus 1. I cannot go to index plus 1. So I'm skipping index plus 1 over here. So option two that I'll have would be basically the maximum of array comma index plus one, because in option two, I'm skipping index one, right? So I have to get the maximum which starts from index plus one to array dot length minus one. Then I would return maximum of these two values. So I would return mat.max of these two values of option one, comma option two. These are the two values that basically I'll use. Right? I have to write the base case. So let me quickly write the base cases over here. So my base case would be if my index becomes greater than or equal to, if it becomes greater than array dot length minus one, so it goes beyond the bounds of the array, then I would quickly return 0, like the way we did it for 6,5. For 6,5, I basically returned 0, right? If my index becomes equal to array dot length minus 1, if it exactly becomes equal to array dot length minus 1, then what I'll do is I'll return array of index, or I'll return array of array dot length minus 1. This is something that I'll do, right? So this is something that I'll do. And this is the exact question that I had to do. What we have to do in recursive solution is I have to assume, I have to basically solve it. I'm sending at some level. I have to solve it for the next level. I have to assume that the answer for the next level would come. I have to return, assuming that the answer for the next levels have come. So I've returned the answer. I have to just add base cases over here, like the way I have written over here. So this is the way we solve recursive questions, right? I'm not going into depth how we solve recursive questions. I'm just using, and I'm assuming that you already know how recursive questions are solved, right? This question should give me time limit exceeded, but it should be able to solve simpler problems like this test case. Let me quickly see if it is able to solve these simpler test cases. But for the original test cases, which are very large, this should give me time limit exceeded, because I've used the brute force approach currently. I've used the recursive approach. I would apply something that I apply in the Fibonacci as well. And after applying that, I would be able to solve this question. So I have got the correct output, but I have to optimize it further, right? How do I optimize it? I have to optimize it by applying storage array to it. Currently, what I'm doing over here is I am solving one recursive problem again and again. Let me quickly give an idea where I'm not optimizing it. So for example, let me quickly draw the tree for you again. For 0,5, you will make a call to 2,5 and you will make a call to 1,5. From 2,5, you'll make a call to 4,5 and you'll make a call to 3,5. For 4,5, you'll make a call to 6,5 and you'll make a call to 5,5. For 3,5, you make a call to 5,5 and you'll make a call to 4,5, right? 4,5 has already been solved over here. This is the way recursive tree is solved. This is the way recursive tree is solved. You have already solved 4,5. But over here, you are again solving 4,5. Answer for 4,5 will not change, but still you are solving it again. This is something that has to be minimized. If something has been solved once, you just store its answer and answer from the storage, right? So I don't want to make the tree again. Let me show you some more repetitions. I'll come back from here. I'll come back over here. 1,5, you will make two calls over here. One is for 3,5 and other is for 2,5. Do you see the do you see the problem over here? What are you doing over here? You have already solved 3,5 once. You are again solving 3,5 over here. You have already solved 2,5. You have solved the complete tree. You are again building the same tree over here. The same answer will come. Why are you building the same tree again? So this is the brute forceness that we have over here. This is the non-optimalness that we have over here. We have to properly tackle that. So we have to use a storage array over here. So the storage array would have, let me name it DP. like the way that we use in Fibonacci. The prerequisite for this would be Fibonacci. Whenever you're trying to solve a question, you should have solved a few questions of that category. So this is a Fibonacci based question. I assume that you understand Fibonacci, right? So since you understand Fibonacci, I would basically say that you would be able to understand this part also. If you don't understand Fibonacci, then you will have a hard time solving this question, right? So try to solve basic problems, right? Then you should move to next problems. Okay. So I would quickly write -1 to all the values. So let me quickly fill the DP array with -1 values. Okay. So this is something that I'm doing over here to recognize whether it has been solved earlier or not. Exactly the way storage array is applied in Fibonacci, exactly the way I'm doing over here, right? So this is exactly the way I'm doing over here. So I'll ask whether DP of index is already solved or not. If it is not equal to -1, that means it's already solved, and I'll directly return DP of index. Otherwise, what I'll do is I'll first store the answer, and then basically I'll return it. Then I'll return it. Right? This is something that I'll do. Right? Now it's complete. Now I'm not repeating things. Now I'm not computing everything again and again. If I have found an answer, I store it then and there only. I'm making a recursive call only once. Before returning it, I'm storing it somewhere. If that question is asked again, what I'll do is I'll first ask the storage whether it has been solved or not. If it has been solved, I'll return it from the storage array. Now I am perfectly ready to evaluate it. Let me quickly check if it's correct or not. So my output and expected output, both of the outputs should be 110. Compilation has failed. Let me quickly say why the compilation has failed. That's because I have not added DP to the recursive calls over here. So now I have added these two my recursive approaches. So recursive calls ke andar I have added DP. Now I can apply it. Okay. Now it is saying that this cannot be found. Okay. Why it is saying like that? Okay. Let me quickly check. Okay. Let me write an import statement so that it can work. So let me make it java.util.star. Why cannot it form an array of size n+1? Okay. Let me quickly test it again. Okay. It has again given me the same output over here. It is saying that this cannot be made. Okay. Why exactly it is saying this? I opened it in Java. Okay. Have I done anything wrong over here? Everything seems fine. New is the keyword that it is saying that it will not be able to create. Okay. Okay. But without the value, without the new keyword, I would not be able to do that. Thank you, Aditya. Thank you. Thank you. I have basically, I have not been using, there is nothing called as n. So let me quickly define n over here. Thank you. I found the mistake, Aditya. Thank you. Yeah. So now let me quickly test it out. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Saigita. Yeah. Now my expected output and the output that I've been generating. Both of them are coming correct. Now let me quickly submit it. And now let me see. It is giving me a runtime error. So why is it giving my runtime error is because the stack memory of the Java is very small. The test cases are very big and the stack memory is very small. So I have to solve it completely by iteration, right? So I should have solved this question completely by iteration only. So let me try to quickly solve this question by iteration. And what I would request you is, if I completely solve this question by iteration, I would not be able to take the next question. I would not be able to take the iteration over here, the unival trees question, because there are only 14 minutes left. I would not be able to go to the unival trees question, right? So I have to solve this question through iteration. Let's try to solve these two questions over here, right? So let's move to the iterative part. So what we have to do the iterative approach is we have to go from base cases to down. So what we have done in the recursive approach is we have started from the very bottom. We have started from the bottom of the tree and we have gone to the top. Now the answer started forming when I basically found answer of this and this. From this I built the answer of this. From this and this I built the answer of this. From these two answers I built the answer of this. So I'm coming from top to down. So can there be an approach where I don't have to go from below to up? क्या मैं डायरेक्टली ऊपर से नीचे आ सकता हूं? क्या मैं डायरेक्टली यहां से आंसर बिल्ड कर सकता हूं? पूरा क्यों ट्री बना रहा हूं? सीधा बेस केस से शुरू करता हूं, राइट? देयर इज समथिंग कॉल्ड एज बेस केस. दो बेस केस मैंने यहां पे लिया. बेस केस का हेल्प से मैंने ये वाला आंसर बिल्ड किया. यहां पे दो बेस केस है मेरा और उन दोनों बेस केस की हेल्प से मैंने एक और आंसर बिल्ड किया. इन दोनों की हेल्प से मैंने एक और आंसर बिल्ड किया. इस आंसर से मैंने अपना मेन आंसर बिल्ड किया. So why cannot we start from base cases itself? So let's start from the base cases only. So I'll basically create a 1D array over here because I have been using the storage array 1D. So जो storage array use होगा वही मेरा iteration के लिए use होगा. Storage array मेरा कितना size का था? n+1 size का था. मेरा array क्या था? मेरा array 5, 5, 10, 100, 10 and 5. ये मेरा array था. So मैं n+1 size का बना देता हूँ. ये 6 है मेरा. So I'll create an array of size 7. So let me quickly fill it. Right? This corresponds to the answer of 6, 5. This corresponds to the answer of 5, 5. This corresponds to the answer of 4, 5. This corresponds to the answer of 3, 5. This corresponds to the answer of 2, 5. This corresponds to the answer of 1, 5. And this corresponds to the answer of 0, 5. Right? 6, 5 का आंसर मुझे पता है. यहां से सॉल्व करना है. ऊपर जो रिकर्सिव अप्रोच में जैसे सॉल्व किया है वैसे ही सॉल्व करना है. So as you can see, 6, 5 का आंसर we already know it was 0. 5, 5 का आंसर we already know it was equivalent to array of 5. So the answer is equivalent to 5 only. Now the answer of 4, 5 is either sum of array of 4 plus the value of dp of 6. So either the value of array of 4, which is basically 10, and the dp of 6. So either we do sum of these two things or I just take 5, 5, dp of 5. So 4, 5 का आंसर 6, 5 के आंसर में array of 4 ऐड करने से आता था और 5, 5 लेने से आता था. इन दोनों में से जो बड़ा होता था वो 4, 5 का आंसर होता था. So the answer of 4, 5 would be maximum of 10 plus 0, 5. So the maximum is 10. So I would keep 10 over here. The answer of 3, 5 would be maximum of 100 plus 5, which is 105 or 10 only. So this would be 105. The answer of 2, 5 would be maximum of 10 plus 10 or 105 alone. The answer would be 105. The answer of 1, 5 would be 5 plus 105, that is 110, or 2, 5 alone, which is 105. So the answer would be 110. The answer of 0, 5 would be this person plus this or 110 alone. So it would be 110, 110. Both of them are same. So I can take whichever amount of element that I want, right? So after completing this whole DP array in the reverse direction, my answer would be this, because this stores the answer of 0, 5, right? Let me quickly implement this because I'm left with only 9 minutes. Now let me quickly implement this and let's see if we are able to solve this question, right? So I would be using the same DP array, right? So let me quickly increase the font so that you are all able to see it. So first what I'll do is I'll fill the base cases. I will not be using this part. I would not be using the helper over here. So let me quickly minimize this helper part. I will not be using, I would be completely solving it using my given method only. So dp of n would be equal to 0 to begin with, right? Right? So I have created an array of size n plus 1, right? So dp of n would be equal to 0, and then dp of n minus 1 would be equal to array of n minus 1, right? These two things I have already solved. Now I have to solve in the reverse direction. So I have to start with n minus 2. I have to quickly keep on going till my I is greater than equal to 0, and I have to decrement my I, right? My dp of I would be equal to max of array of I plus dp of I plus 2, dp of I plus 2, comma dp of I plus 1. Exactly the way that we have defined so far, exactly the way that we have used so far. So dp of I would be mat.max of array of I plus dp of I plus 2, comma dp of I plus 1. So this is something that I have to do. And at the end, what I have to do is I have to return dp of 0. My answer would be dp of 0. This is exactly the way you have to solve. So this is the simple 5 to 6 lines of code that you have to write, right? Now let me quickly check it with the custom input so that we can be rest assured that our approach is correct. So I'm using the same simple test case that I've used earlier. So let me quickly test it. It should give me 110 as the output of this code. It is giving me 110. Now let me quickly submit it and let me see what would be the answer to all my test cases. So now all my test cases are coming correct. As you can see, all my 4 test cases are coming correct, right? This is the way that I wanted to talk about. We are still left with 6 minutes, and we're left with one question also, but we would not be able to tackle this one question because we are left with only 6 questions. This link would be valid after this webinar also. After this 6 minutes gets over, you can go through the solution over here. After the test is over, you would find solution over here. You can go through the ideal solution as well, whatever solution we have added in the backend, and you can add those things to your learning, right? Congratulations to the people who were able to solve the user with the username Zahra, Fatima, Nakwi, and similarly Dilip Suthar. Congratulations to you, Karthik. Brilliant. You were able to solve these questions. Very good. Very nice. We would be having these webinars more often. We would be having these webinars, these activity-based webinars more often. I hope I was able to explain you how interview problems have to be tackled. So to answer your question, Atishay, I would recommend you to go through our foundation course. It has been curated pretty well. Everything that you have to learn, it has been streamlined at one place, and we have added TA support as well. One-to-one TA support, live TAs. You would be communicating for your doubts. You would be communicating with a person, and he would be answering one-to-one. Right? So I would recommend you, the best resource that I can think of is the curated course that we have created, the well-researched course that we have created, Abhishek, right? Similarly, to answer your question, Aditya, same answer that you have for you. I don't have anything else in my mind that I can suggest you. I don't have a book, right? So this is the only resource that I have, the hard and researched course that we have, right? That's the best thing that I have. Apart from that, you can go to Lead Code also, but there it's a platform where they give contests regularly. You can basically go through it as well. They're not teaching. So after you have learned data structures and algorithms, and if you want to explore more, then you should go to this Lead Code part, and you should practice regularly. Give weekly contests over here. If you give weekly contest, things would be perfect for you, right? If you give the weekly contest, things would be perfect for you, and your knowledge of data structures and algorithms would always remain fresh, right? Because you have learned data structures and algorithms, you have learned some knowledge, you have taken some knowledge. Then what you do is you should apply it by solving questions on leadcode.com, or to other platforms. Like another platform that comes to my mind is binarysearch.com. So there is a platform called binarysearch.com. The complete name is binarysearch.com. These are beginner platforms to practice. These are very good platforms. After you have learned enough data structures and algorithms on LeetCode and binarysearch.com, the next platform I would ideally recommend is codeforces.com. It has very nice curated contests. So after you have learned after you have learned data structures and algorithms, keep practicing as much as you can, right? Uh, just to answer your question, Atishay, please go to codingninjas.com. You can go through the courses and you can get everything over there. I don't want to get into those details. If you have any other questions, if you want any other advice from me, I would like to give my email ID to you. You can connect with me at navdeep@codingninjas.com. Whatever advices that you want, you can basically just put me an email. I would be happy to answer your questions. Even if there is question that you are not able to solve, please feel free to put it across, and you would be able to solve those questions. Yeah. Yeah. So that was all from my side. I can see that questions have dried up, and I can see I was able to answer each and every question. You don't have any other question. Okay. Okay, people. Thank you. Thank you for staying so long. Thank you for listening. Okay. Okay. Okay, Atishay. Okay, Swagat. Yeah. Okay. Okay, people. Okay, Aditya. Bye bye. Let me quickly. Okay. End stream. Thank you, people. Okay. Bye bye.